I'll start the topic. So today I'm going to talk more about sales channels and procurement networks in the retail industry. Many of you would be aware of some of these things, some of you are not aware. So at the end of it, we will have the question and answer, and I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I've been in the retail procurement side and the sourcing side for the last 20 something years, worked in many different parts of the world. I've worked in India, Taiwan, Hong Kong, New York, then London, then back to Hong Kong, and now in Shanghai. And I've managed teams and suppliers as well as buyers and retailers in many parts of the world, including Asia, North Asia, South Asia, Latin America, North America, and CIS countries, so and Middle East. Basically, what has happened in the industry in the last 4 or 5 years is a perfect storm of sorts. This is not my slide, this is a slide from KPMG. And basically, if you read the slide, what it's talking about is there is every kind of disruption that's possible for the supply chain industry, for the retail industry. The supply chain disruptions were there, COVID happened, the retail industry was changing. There is all kinds of like last few years, of course, pre-COVID also we were already seeing what we call a retail apocalypse, and I will talk about that also in the next few slides. But there was a perfect kind of storm brewing. When such a situation happens, there is either there is always a lot of companies and a lot of businesses that will collapse, but that also leads to a lot of new opportunities and new ventures that happen. And I think for BuyHive that became as an advantage. For some, it has become a disadvantage. Basically, every retail space in the world had to suffer during this time. I don't know if you guys are following this, but Pier 1 Imports was one of the largest companies in US, and they used to do home decor and others, and they went out of business. There is total about, and this is not because of COVID, okay, this is pre-COVID. This phenomenon started happening around 2010, accelerated in 2010 to 15, and 2021 basically was the way I see it, it's a catalyst. COVID has been a catalyst. So whatever was not closed, whatever was holding to the last thread, it has all gone down. We saw some major guys, like I was saying, Sears Holdings, which was in 2006, 3,500 stores and 355,000 employees. Imagine the size of that. That was Sears Holding in 2006, and 2018 they filed for bankruptcy. I remember when I was in New York and managing the Intertech business, for us Sears Holdings used to give annually $20 million worth of just inspections business. That's just factory inspections, and we were managing $20 million worth of that, and that kind of a company has gone off. Toys R Us, again, another example, one of the first, I mean, anybody who has kids has been there. We see some Toys R Us stores now in China and Hong Kong because it's owned by Li & Fung. Li & Fung owns it, but otherwise they filed for bankruptcy and they went out of business in the whole of North America. Also, Forever 21, 2019 was 200 stores were closed. Payless was a big brand as well, again went out 2019. And you can see the pattern. This is pre-COVID. This was not because of COVID. This is all pre-COVID. GNC, again a very big name, 2020 bankrupt. What's causing this, right? What is the reason and why these things happen? Why were these guys going out of business? So there are a lot of different things that are happening. One of the major ones, which everybody knows, is the rise of the e-commerce. E-commerce, the third-party selling platforms, and just the acceptance of e-commerce by the consumers. Again, because of COVID, that acceptance got even bigger, and actually in China, it has been much faster. If we have been in China, all of you guys who have been in China in the last 10 years know that we were already there. The rest of the world followed through faster after COVID, but it was happening. Saturation of malls. So, I don't know in the US and in Europe where we have these big malls, especially in US where there were these huge malls, people started losing interest in the shopping there. It was becoming kind of young kids go there to hang out, to watch movies, and then they would do some shopping, but nobody went for shopping per se. And this phenomenon happened maybe 10 years back. I don't know if you guys remember a brand called Robinson May. Robinson May was similar to Macy's. Robinson May went down, I think, was the one of the first. 2005 or 6 is when they went bankrupt. Macy's has been closing stores ever since, and then all the others, because these were all populated in the malls. This brand that I wear, I always wear Abercrombie, and Abercrombie was every mall in the United States used to have one store, and it was always the most popular store with the models standing outside. And Abercrombie had a lot of issues because of that too. But those stores, which were always very popular, were all losing interest. People are losing interest in those stores in the last 5-6 years, pre-COVID. Um, the opportunity, however, is very large. And what we tried to put on this slide, and I will circulate these slides for everybody so these data are there. But there's some very interesting data. If you look at just Amazon, Walmart, Shopify, eBay, the number of stores that are doing 250,000 US dollars is only increasing, 250,000 in GMV. And these are stores that are run by 4 people, 5 people. These are not very large stores. And the number of Amazon sellers by USD of over a million also keeps growing. So there is so many. There is about 3,300 that do over 10 million in GMV. These are Amazon stores. Okay, and this is amazing. And then there is, in every country around the world, there is many different platforms that have come up. Fair, of course, in US, Moglix in India, Shopee in Southeast Asia, WooCommerce around the world, Magento, and so many others. So there everywhere in the world, there is a lot of different platforms that are coming in. Shopify, if you see the growth of Shopify, right? They started in 2019, they were about 2.29, which in now is about $5 billion in 2022. So the growth is incredible, and you can see when they started in 2014 to 2022, the growth is amazing. That is the hockey stick that everybody talks about, and these guys have added. Same way, if you look at Amazon's growth, while we talked about the retail apocalypse and all these brands shutting down, there was a huge opportunity being created, and these guys were growing. Their current revenue is about $485 billion. 485 billion, that's almost bigger than some countries. There's also a lot of focus of investors that has come into the D2C world, or that has happened around the world. We talked about US, but even in Southeast Asia and India, there has been a growth. And I'm not touching China much here, because China, I think everybody is aware about what has happened in China. And I'm no expert in China retail, frankly speaking. But around the world, this number, so if you look at India, India is supposed to be a $350 billion e-commerce only business by 2030. Right now, they are somewhere around 188, and that will double. So you can imagine the opportunity if you are an investor, if you are a retail brand who wants to enter India, and whoever you are in that space, you want to be in India. That is what the VCs are doing. The VCs are crowding spaces in Southeast Asia. So you can see them in Indonesia, in Thailand, in India, and the number keeps on growing. So what is also happening is the emergence of new age brands. We talked about these Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. How they're growing is by doing a lot of SEO, SEM. It's not the old school way where you open a store, you need a lot of inventory, you need a lot of staffing, etc. Smaller businesses can do this as far as you know how to do SEO, SEM. A very good example is Shein. Shein, you're all familiar with it. It sells more outside China, and we'll talk about Shein a little bit more also later on. But what they did was they have built an amazing brand for themselves, and it has been built on the basis of social media. and SEO and SEM. They have not done anything else for brand building. And then, of course, they have all these people who sell on them, who have become their mouthpieces by themselves. The factors that used to drive traditional retail, or how traditional retail used to sell and how the new age brands are selling, has changed a lot. The dependence of footfall, right? The dependence of footfall in the sense how many people walk into the mall, how many people are going to be seeing the products, who is going to see, or people used to pay prime. You guys all know H&M, the main store closed down 6 months back. Why was it at that location that it was? It was because it's all footfalls and eyes, they call it. They say that how many people are looking at us. The Abercrombie store in Hong Kong, I remember at one point of time, they signed a $1 million US dollar a month lease to have that space in Central, just so that they can be seen by everybody. It's a kind of a flagship thing. That doesn't work in the new age brands. In the new age, it's on traffic on the web store, and the web store traffic, you can have many different ways of getting that traffic. Relying on middlemen for distribution. It was always a lot of middlemen, a lot of trading companies, a lot of brokers in between for their supply chains. They also rely on traditional advertising and some digital marketing. They did majorly traditional advertising. You would see newspapers, you see television ads, you'll see hoardings, and all that was the methods. The new, like we discussed, it's a SEO, SEM, and retargeting and all of that. Rely on TV ads, like I said, a lot of those. But these guys rely. There is a new age of people who drive these. Like Shein is completely driven by the influencers and micro influencers, right? And that's the new age. In this space is what we built our startup. So I have 3-4 slides to talk about what we did differently. And I won't talk too much about the business, but generally how we looked at the sourcing part of it. Because a reason, or how these new age sellers are growing, they also need a good supply chain. They also need a good sourcing. So what we have built is like an Uber, but we have experts in different parts of the world who are experts in that sourcing. And we talked about these big retailers. So we got people who lost jobs because Toys R Us went out of business, or Macy's is going out of business, or H&M is going out of business. Those people losing jobs, 20-25 years of experience, but that experience is nowhere. They know the suppliers, they know the markets, and we connect them with the buyers for their needs. We have a friend from Alibaba here, so I won't destroy Alibaba too much. But basically what happens in these platforms like Alibaba and my previous company, Global Sources, is we are all advertising platforms. And we had the incentive, and I'm saying we because I was part of that, and I was running 280 people sales team that was only selling advertisements. And we could not, for whatever we want to do, we could not introduce a buyer to a supplier that has not paid us. We could only introduce those that are paid, and in that the ones that pay most get the most number of connections, or that get the most number of RFIs, we call them inquiries. And there is a problem with that, because there is a conflict of interest. You're not getting the supplier that matches your needs, but you're getting a supplier that is paying most to the platform. So what we decided to do is, we have this expert knows what is best. Expert is a person who's working as a merchandiser or a buyer for, say, a brand. He or she has sourced for, if you're in luxury, they've sourced for, say, Bottega Veneta or Louis Vuitton, and now they've lost jobs. But they know the suppliers who can make that. And now you're selling very well on Shein, and you say, oh, I want to do something like that. I can sell a high-end brand. I want to create my own brand there. You will find this person and to do a project for you. You cannot afford them full time, but you can afford them for projects, and that's what we make available. So we tried to create a platform which was zero effort for the buyer, and which gives them a good supplier match, a curated supplier match, which is fitting to today's needs of these new age retailers. Now we have developed, in the last 2.5 years, so since 1st of January, we've developed 5,000 plus sourcing experts in about 25 countries. And these are these people have led to us doing about $26 million in revenue so far. We're a completely bootstrapped startup, started from scratch on 1st of January 2020, and now we've been able to build this because there is so many of these available, and there's a lot of demand for their service also. And they worked for, some of the brands that they worked for are here. It's like everybody and anybody you can think of in the world, in the sourcing world or in the retail world. So there are 4 main takeaways in kind of summarizing this. Before I get into summarizing, I think if anybody has any other questions till now, let me know. Otherwise, I'll summarize this and then we can go into questions. Okay, we'll summarize. So basically, there is a lot of things that have happened. So one is the sourcing part, or changes in the sourcing, procurement channels, the influencer marketing, the live commerce, and the online assistance. And I'll talk about each one of them in depth. So there is a diversification of supply. There is a diversification of how people are finding supplies also, and this is a changing process. We are in a process where it's going to change how people are going to identify suppliers. Influencer marketing, like we said, the micro influencers, these are the next. If you want to win, if you want to create a brand, if you want to be a successful e-commerce platform, this is what you're going to depend on. And China is really good at doing that. The rest of the world has learned that. You guys have all seen, you guys have seen all those, so I live very close to Anfulu, and all these influencers with their lights and all kinds of cameras and stuff, like there's like hundreds of them taking photos and videos and microblogging about their things. I've seen stores which has this also in China, which is not there in US. It's going to happen. So there anybody who's investing in microblogging sites, you know, TikTok became so big because of that, and there is other platforms that are coming up in the world, and if you guys are investing or you're finding something like that, there is a lot of room for growth. One behind. Yeah, so live commerce, right? The microblogging, the live question and answer. People need instant information. Today's consumer is way more instant. The one thing that I did not cover in this, and this fits somewhere here, is this new audience is not loyal to brands. I was very loyal. I wore one brand for like 10 years, 20 years. I didn't ever change. But the younger audience really doesn't care. That's why platforms like Shein are so doing well. They connect with the micro influencers. They connect with the influencers. They say, oh, the influencer said this is good, I'm going to buy that. And that's the future. Instagram is a big channel. TikTok is a big channel. And online sales assistants. So in the US, this is very popular. People depend on these people to do shopping for them. They get the help of these people, and this is also something, as people have lesser and lesser patience for these things, they say, okay, you just do it for me. You come arrange my closet. You've seen that show, right? What was that? Marie Kondo, yes. So like that, they're also doing, okay, not just arrange my closet, you also help me pick what will go in my closet. And that's becoming a trend. And this is why I say like this is the last slide, and this is where it is important. These are 2 brands, both came from China. That's why I kept it in the last. So Shein and Cider, and both have done amazing penetration into the market in US, and this has happened only in the last 1.5 to 2 years. It's like basically 2020 they were just getting started. Now they're almost, because of Shein, H&M has to close stores. Because of them, Zara has to close stores. They're giving competition to those established brands now. So this is an amazing phenomenon, and there is more to happen in this space. This is just the beginning. This is, I would say, the tip of the iceberg. These are only 2 brands that have done so well, but there is so much more potential in there. Thank you.